Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 11th, 2021 at approximately 5:13 p.m. PST. Well, one day I may get around to actually doing this at a regular time, but I'm not exactly holding my breath on it. The reality is that my schedule gets a little carried away, especially when you consider the number of different things I've got on the go. But I am happy to say, I think I was talking yesterday about getting rid of a shelf today, or in the next couple of days. In any event, the shelf that I was getting rid of is now gone. Meaning my hallway outside the office now is free and clear to walk down, which I'm very happy about. Again, it really boils down to figure out what you're not content with and start eliminating the things that are not going well for you, that are blocking the energy that you're not content with. The reality is when you take the things that you're not content with and you alter them, what ends up happening is you're left with a world that you're personally content with. Now, when everybody does their part and straightens the negative energy, straightens the blocks out in their own world, the side effect is that it will reach out and affect everybody around you. What I have found in the 48 years I've been doing this, I'm 58. I started doing the consulting for personal problems, for business, for UFO, alien technology related stuff. I started doing that when I was 10. Now, in all fairness, in my case, I started actually living with it when I was born. Now, of course, there are people that will go, well, where's your proof that all of this is going on? I don't have any physical proof. I've got a staggering amount of circumstantial evidence of people that have corroborated things that I've talked about. But do I have any physical proof? Do I have any physical pictures? Frankly, no. But in all fairness, I heard it put one day really nicely. People that believe in what you're doing, doesn't matter who you are. People that believe you, that what you're looking at, especially when you're looking in the creative fields, people that believe you don't require proof, and people that don't believe you, there is no proof possible. Okay, give a prime example. Okay, if you take somebody that is, and I'm not picking on these people, they're just easy to comprehend. If you take a look at the Flat Earth Society, now you can tell if people believe the Earth is flat. Okay, if they already believe that the world is globe, you don't need proof for it. If they believe the world is flat, it will not make functional difference whatever you do. You can show them photographs unless you take them into outer space, and then they may argue the point. Unless they physically see for themselves from orbit that the world really is a sort of a ball. And the reason I say sort of is because it's not perfectly round. Okay. With that in mind, take people out into outer space, they'll still find a way. If they don't want to believe that the world is round, they won't. And you will not be able to prove it. Okay. A lot of the things I've seen happen, like even in my field, I've been working as a professional psychic since 1986. Professional being, I've generated an income. I'll use the term made a living at it loosely, but I've generated an income. Okay. Now, I will tell you wholeheartedly, and I run into trouble with this anyway from other psychics, 80 to 85% of what I do, I can explain to you, I can tell you, this is how I came up with the information, here's the database I'm working with. In my case, doing it for this long, my database is practical experience. Now, I can tell you 80 to 85% of it is common sense and life experience. Okay, and for those of you that aren't aware of it yet, I'm 58 now, so I've got more life experience than people that are like 20. That just goes with the territory. Okay, now 80-85% is easy. Okay, I will wholeheartedly tell you that is how a lot of it gets done. because things do have a tendency of repeating in cycles. But I've had situations, I had a client call me up decades back, okay, where she was looking for a missing passport. Now, I told her exactly where it was, and I mean right down to in between which books, or in this case, which file folders. There is no way that with no information to work with, like all I started with was a birth date and the city she was calling from, and of course her first name. From there, I told her exactly where her passport was in her own office. Okay, now I had somebody else on the East Coast that I was talking to that I helped her find, and again, this was corroborated information. Okay, told them exactly where to drop a well. Okay, and it turned out when they punched the well, when a professional well, I don't even know what they're called. But a professional went in to dig the well. They dug the well exactly where I had told them to and found water. Even they turned around, they phoned me back and said, "Look, how did you pull it off?" You know, like I knew there was water there, but he said, "How did you spot when it had to slow down?" And I said, "Well," I said, "you use sonar, so you're looking for the bottom." He goes, "Yeah." I says, "I don't use sonar, so I was looking for the top. Net result, I found where the cavern started." Now, understand, we are talking about a cavern that was 100 feet underground, or more to the point, the river was. Now, these are things that are outside the norm. They do not happen that often. 80-85% of the time, the information that I pick up can be easily explained as common sense, as just standard odds. Okay. Now, this is not to say that psychics are not useful, because let's face it, when you're in the middle of a problem, okay, if you're in the middle of a situation, it's harder to see how to deal with it. I've had businesses where I've walked in and said, they've asked, "Well, why is my business failing? How can I make it work properly?" I've given them some tools to work with. They've turned around, put the tools to use. Okay. I had one guy, he actually wrote me back. And he told me, he says, "The only reason I did what you suggested," he says, "because what you suggested made no sense. But everything I had done and everything I had been trained to do with the educational side had not worked. So when you told me to do these odd things," he says, "the only reason that I agreed to do them was because nothing I'd done worked." Okay. Net result was he ended up having, instead of 2 restaurants, ended up with 7, 2 of which were inside strip malls that he personally owned. Okay. Now I can give you all kinds of these fringe things, but they are fringe situations. I've had people call up and go, "What's going on with my life?" And I'll look at them and go, "Well, let's see," and I'll go to say something and I'll say, "Well, I've got all that in order." If people have things in order, and it's a very simple issue for me, if you're contacting me with the idea of proving me wrong, you'll succeed. If you're calling me with the intention of proving me correct, you'll succeed. Okay, I'm not here to prove anything one way or the other. I'm simply here to pass on a simple message. I returned for one reason, and that one reason is simply to let people know that when we work together, we can, as co-denizens of this reality, we can create a world that is a lot better for all of us. Well, for most of us. There will always be those individuals that want everything handed to them, that figure they deserve a handout, that the world essentially revolves around them. I'm not one of these people. The world does not revolve around me. Like you, I stand on the world, and the world still goes around in circles. It does not revolve around me. And by no means do I desire anybody to look at me and go, "Oh, you're absolutely perfect." Okay. Oh, look at that, it's wearing out. I am absolutely not perfect. I have major flaws that I'm aware of, working on them. I am a firm believer that anything your body can create, your body can heal. Okay, now, do understand when I say that, the professionals that are out there that have the training in medical, I'll tell you, when I broke my right arm, I would rather a doctor that's been trained in how to repair things puts them back together. Now, when I broke my right arm, I broke it so bad they had to plate it. Now, the fact that it works fine says the doctor that put it back together did a fabulous job. The fact is, I would not have wanted to go to somebody that was just guessing what they were up to. Okay, do I have my issues around doctors and what have you? Absolutely. Where it comes to pharmacies, a lot of people look at the pharmaceutical companies and go, they're all crooked and what have you. In all fairness, I personally find pharmaceutical companies are absolutely above board. They turn around, they do some pretty silly things in my eyes, but what they do that is right is they'll turn around and they'll go, okay, here's the pill that I've got, here's the medication I want you to take, here's this little itty bitty thing it'll do to help you, and here's this stack a mile deep of what it'll do to kill you. Now, I cannot blame or more to the point, I will not blame the pharmaceutical companies for that process. Because they're being honest with you, they're saying, this is that little thing it'll do to help, this is the number of things it'll do to kill you off. Please buy my stuff. Now, if you make the choice with that kind of disclosure to buy it, why should I blame the pharmaceutical companies, or for that matter, why should you? Okay. Politicians are very similar in that respect. Many politicians absolutely are very self-serving. There is no question there. Many are in it for the money. But you get the occasional one that is absolutely being above board. I know of one guy in particular, that my understanding was he went into office and he literally said, okay, I'm in office now. I've looked at the books. I've looked at the mess we're in. You have one of two choices. I will either have to cut many of the social programs, or I'm going to have to raise your taxes. Those are the two options. I don't have another way around it. Which would you prefer? Well, people said absolutely do not cut the social programs. Well, net result was he raised taxes, and then everybody got up in their arms about it and complained he was raising taxes like every other politician. Well, the reality was he was raising taxes. The other part of the reality was that he told everybody, if I don't cut the social services, I have to raise the taxes. To me, this was a politician that was doing that really weird thing. He was being honest. Okay. So, I mean, from my standpoint, somebody like that, because you got to remember, every single individual on the planet that communicates with anybody they are using political maneuvering. They are using negotiation practices. Parents are lawmakers. Okay, if you run a business, you're a lawmaker. If you help anybody that's hurt, you're a first responder. These are, all of these peoples deserve a pat on the back. All of them deserve recognition. Okay, and you gotta remember, every one of them, before they ever became a politician, a first responder, a teacher, a parent, every one of them was a person. Every one of you started off at this point, starting right here, right now. This is the first day of the rest of your life. It's up to you to decide what you do with it. Now, in my case, I'm working on a couple of major little projects. Okay. One of the biggest projects I'm working on is to get this message out to the entire world that working together, we can make this a better world for everybody. Well, for most people. Okay. If we focus on the positive things, focus on the things that everybody has in common. Everybody is born. Everybody sooner or later will end up dying. Okay. There'll be all sorts of different variations on how that happens. But everybody has the same problem. They all require food in order to survive. They all require liquid, drink, in order to survive. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't have food, you starve to death. Doesn't matter how much money. If you fall off a cliff, the odds are you're going to get hurt pretty badly. Okay, it does not matter what walk of life you come from. Gravity plays havoc with you if you step off a balcony. There are odd occasions where an abnormality happens. Absolutely. But when we realize that everybody is equal, everybody is, spiritually speaking, worth the same amount, not monetarily speaking. Okay, and yes, there are always ways that things could have been done better. Okay, politicians are not perfect. Police officers are not perfect. But they are doing the best they can with what they've got, and this is not something that can be changed overnight. Even the religious leaders, the mainstream religions, what they call New Age, but the spiritual guides, these are not perfect people. They are not doing things absolutely on the money. Okay. But the big message here is you can, when we focus on the positive and we minimize the negative, when you do that, we can make this world a better world for virtually everybody. But the reality behind it is up to you to make that happen. You're the only one on the planet that can be successful for you. All the best tools in the world are absolutely useless if you don't pick them up. Okay, now that's the one major project I've got on the go myself. Okay, now I do hope I get a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to ring that alert bell to let you know when the next one comes up. I do my best to bring out the videos once a day. Sometimes I'll get a couple more out. It depends on how my day goes. But I do my best. So keep an eye on them. Pay attention to them, okay? And if you know somebody that doesn't have access to the video, spread the message to them that working together, we can make this world a better place. I only talk about three laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. If you take a look at those 3 laws and you follow those 3 laws, okay, everything else seems to fit into them. But if you do that, you'll find that the world runs a whole lot more smoothly. And it won't matter what walk of life you come from. I've never personally separated somebody's age or income bracket or orientation or religious belief. I've never singled out any of them as being different, better, or worse than anybody else. I absolutely will take a look at the behavior of the way people treat each other as better or worse. But that's because they're going completely against karmic law. One of the things that I've found in many cases is people will turn around and they'll beat the living stuffing out of their partner. And then they'll blame that partner for actually them doing it. Okay, you drove me to hit you. And, unfortunately, what I've discovered is that the fastest and the most vulnerable time for somebody to accept an apology is right after a beating. Okay, this does not make it right. Remember that thing about do unto others as you desire them to do unto you? Okay, that's what that's referring to. Now, this is the one major message that I'm doing my level best to get out to people. And, I'd love to be on a regular schedule and go, I'll do it every morning, first thing in the morning, or every Sunday I'll do it at 10 o'clock. My schedule doesn't work that way. Okay. Hence why this one came out when it did. Now, that's the one project. Now, of course, to do all that, when I started doing these videos, I was looking at it, okay, what have I done? What have I looked at to take my life from where it was and get it to where I desire it to be? Okay. And that's an issue of energy manipulation. when you take a look at the idea that the way your life, that your primary working or living area is laid out, is a reflection of the way your mind is working. When you take that as an axiom, okay, and you turn around, you look at the flip side of that, and you'll find that your mind, if your house is cluttered, your mind is going to be a reflection of that and messed up as well. Now, frankly, it's easier to alter the physical layout of your house, as far as if you've got too much junk in the area or what have you, like with the shelf that I told you I just got rid of. Okay. When you get rid of the clutter, your brain will start to work more clearly. Don't take my word for it. Test it out on your own area. Okay, straighten out your office and see how much more clearly your brain works while you're working in the office. Okay. Every one of the tools I offer people, quite frankly, they are ones that I work on, that I utilize myself, if they apply to me. Okay, and these are the same tools I've been handing out to people, like I said, for 48 years now. Okay, now granted, when I was 10, people usually didn't pay much attention to it. Until many years later when they came back and said, if I'd have done what you told me, then I wouldn't be in the boat I'm in. Now what do I do? Okay, it's kind of a weird way of looking at the world, but it works for me. Yes, I'm sweating like a stuck pig here, but that's okay. That, in all fairness, in case you're wondering where that term comes from, my understanding is way back before we had fast food restaurants. You'd take a pig, an actual farmyard animal, stick it on a spit, and you'd cook it over the open fire. Net result, the thing would sweat like there was no tomorrow as the fat cooked off it. And yeah, I've got some on me. I am losing weight. That is one of the minor little goals that I've got going on. But these are live recordings, which means when I get done, I simply make sure I got the date right. If I didn't get the date right, everything I've just recorded, you'll never see because I don't go back and edit. I just simply redo it. In this case, okay, if I've got the date right, then as soon as I'm done, I check the date and post it. So the hiccups and the double backs on the way I speak, that's just normal. Okay, if you ever run into me in person and I get talking to you, you'll find I do exactly the same thing, although most of the time, since I'm hanging onto a cane, I don't talk with my hands quite as much. I'm also usually standing up. When I'm in the office, needless to say, I don't move off the chair very much. But then that has something to do with the fact that I'm writing, which is the other project I'm working on. And when I'm done this video, I'm seriously looking at putting another video together that is strictly on the way that my books, the Yldrbacian Chronicles, how they came about, how they are now starting to evolve, and what is going on with them. But that's another project, and one that I'm going to keep off of this particular one. But you will find that I haven't quite decided what I'm going to call it yet, but keep an eye open for it. I should be getting one out either today or tomorrow to cover that. It's just one of those goals I made for myself. Okay, now between that, and of course, continuing to clear out the energy and what have you, I've got my hands absolutely full. And one of the biggest challenges I have for you is don't worry about where your life is heading. Okay, I keep getting told by people you gotta have a plan for your life to be successful. And the reality I've found in the 48 years I've been doing this is, number one, most people haven't got a clue what they want to do when they get older until they get into their late 40s, early 50s. Okay. But even at that point, it's not a question to look down the road, what do I want to do? What do I desire to do that far down the road? Take a look at where you are right now, right here, and ask yourself this: what am I not content with? Okay, if you're not content with something, that's what you alter. And then you work your way out. And this is why I said you take three jobs, keep them to 15-minute to half-hour jobs. Write them down. When you get one checked off, write a third one at the bottom again. In this way, you'll have an ongoing list of chores to do, a list of goals to get cleared out of the way. so you can make your life work more effectively for you. Okay, that is, from my standpoint, that is by far the most effective method to take your life from where it currently is, regardless of how you got there, and move it to where you desire it to be. Now, if you're having trouble figuring out where to start, the where to start is easy. Wherever you are right at this moment, that's likely the easiest place to start. Okay. If you've got questions, absolutely drop me a line at one of the contact points below this video, and I will be more than happy to give you an idea of how to straighten it out. Okay. It's easier to get your life back on track if you don't know how, if you talk to somebody that has successfully done it. Now, in my case, I'm quite content with the way my life is. It's not perfect by any means, and that's why I still am making changes. But I set goals for myself, I get them accomplished, and I can look at them and go, I managed to get this done. Okay. Now, with all of this said, the reality is the best tools on the planet are absolutely useless to you if you don't pick them up. If you haven't tried it and if your life is not working exactly the way you desire it to, take a look at the tools that I'm offering. Okay. The reality from my standpoint is this. I only offer tools that I have either personally used or that enough people have come back and said this is a tool that I offered. For instance, I have explained to a lot of people how to quit smoking without drugs, without any sort of needles or anything else, and without substitutes, but most importantly, without having withdrawals. Now, since I never started smoking, I'm not about to start and figure out if I was right. I will simply take the word of the number of people that have told me that it worked for them. Okay. Again, I'm not asking you to believe exactly what I'm telling you. I'm saying if you haven't found a way that works, give this one a shot. It may well work in tandem with something you're doing. Where it comes to medical, I will tell you wholeheartedly, your diet, your level of exercise, the way your posture, all of these things combined, working in tandem with whatever the doctors are telling you, can have dramatically beneficial effects. Okay, now there are things that doctors are definitely needed for. Like I said, when I snap my arm, I don't want some backwards mechanic trying to rebuild my arm. On the other hand, I've got an older vehicle, and if a backyard mechanic can tell me how to fix it, I'll quite happily go with that. Right now, I have a mechanic that's got a license, the whole 9 yards. I'm happy with him, so I'm not looking. It's like I tell people, I am what I call mechanically inclined. Every time I'm inclined, I call a mechanic. Okay, now I keep these to a half hour for a reason. Primarily because my schedule is way too tight. The odds are your schedule is as well. So, with that in mind, like I said, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that alert button to let you know when the next one comes up. And I will be back tomorrow sometime to talk to you again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.